Hi everybody, I wanted to do a series on the fundamentals of diet and training because really getting these fundamentals down consistently is going to determine the majority of your progress. So today we're going to get into energy balance, starting with nutrition. But before we get into that, if you don't want to miss out on future videos, make sure to subscribe to the channel, like the video, and comment below to support the channel. Thank you. Energy balance is going to be the most important factor when it comes to nutrition. It really blows me away when a lot of people are trying to gain weight, lose weight, but really they have no idea the amount of calories they're consuming, or even an idea of how much calories they're expending. So we're going to go over that today. Energy balance basically just means the amount of calories you consume as well as expend, and the ratio between those two is your calorie balance. So if you expend more than you consume, then you're in a calorie deficit. If you consume more than you expend, you're in a calorie surplus. So we're going to look at each independently. Calories out, we're going to go into, it's a little bit more complicated. There's a little bit more in terms of components. So what makes up your total energy expenditure for the day? It can be broken down into your basal metabolic rate, or BMR. That's the amount of calories you burn just basically at rest, just to maintain bodily functions. There isn't huge discrepancies here. We don't have a ton of control over it, outside of just building more muscle mass and just making sure things work optimally as far as health is concerned. Next would be the thermic effect of food. So when we consume food, there is a certain amount of energy burned during the processing of that food. And it'll vary based on the macronutrient predominantly eaten in that meal, with protein being the highest. We'll get into macronutrients a bit later, but that's one of the ways we can somewhat impact energy out, is consuming much larger percentage of protein in our diet. Then the other components come down to our activity. So there's exercise. Obviously there could be a wide range there. That's just the calories burned during exercise. And for some people that might be nothing because they're not doing any formal exercise. And then for some people, high-level athletes, that could be pretty significant. Another major component is non-exercise activity thermogenesis, or NEAT for short. This is any activity outside of exercise. So this could be fidgeting, just walking, doing like daily chores around the house. This we have a lot of control over as well, and there's huge discrepancies between individuals. So the people that typically seem like they have very high metabolic rates, a large reason for that is they just move a lot. Now this can be tracked using something like a Fitbit, like I got here. I track my steps every day using that, and that gives us a pretty good gauge of non-exercise activity. And then exercise, we want to stick with just some standard exercise regimen. Maybe you're hitting the gym 3 to 4 times a week. We don't want to try to burn, I think it's a trap trying to burn a ton of calories from exercise, because there is a recovery demand there. Where we're going to have the biggest impact in terms of energy out is going to be the non-exercise activity thermogenesis, or NEAT. So the easy way to track that energy out part of the equation, get yourself a Fitbit or something similar, something to track steps, and then you have an idea of the energy out. Now the energy in part of the calorie balance equation, that's simply the food we eat in a day, the total amount of calories. This is pretty easy to track nowadays with apps on your phone. MyFitnessPal is probably the most popular, but because the database isn't the greatest, I prefer Chronometer. So if you install one of those apps, simply track everything you eat in a day, including everything. So cream and sugar you add in your coffee, oil you cook food in, any sauces you add. Ideally, these would be weighed out on a food scale so you can be accurate, and do that for a few days. You'd have a pretty accurate picture of what you actually consume in a day. Now, This is going to be where we have the most amount of control. We can have the biggest impact on our goals. So if we want to lose weight, we have to eat at a calorie deficit. So if we expend, let's say 2,500 calories in a day, we need to be consuming less than that in order to lose body weight. Now, there's about 3,500 calories stored per pound of body fat. So if you were to try to lose 1 pound of body fat a week, you would try to create a 500 calorie deficit a day. 500 calories over 7 days, that's 3,500 calories. Now, likewise, if we wanted to gain weight, we'd have to do the opposite. So that maintenance calories, if we burned 2,500 in a day, and again, that's including BMR, exercise activity, thermic effective food, and non-exercise. So when people think burn, they just think about the calories burned during exercise. We have to include all of that, which would give us our total daily energy expenditure. But again, if we want to gain weight, we have to eat more than that. So we have to know what our goals are. If we're trying to lose weight or gain weight, we have to know where we're at calorie-wise, and then monitor what body weight's doing. If you're eating 2,500 calories a day and body weight is basically staying the same, then you know you're right around maintenance, so you have to eat above or below that, and we can make changes from there. The important thing to keep in mind, I mentioned 1 pound equals 3,500 calories. And you'll hear that a lot, and that is true when it comes to fat. 1 pound of fat. Now it's important to realize, so 1 pound of fat is 3,500 calories. 1 pound of muscle is somewhere like 600 calories. So we can create that same 3,500 calorie deficit, and if we lost 100% fat, we should see theoretically a 1 pound weight loss. There are other issues there in terms of like water weight could change that as well, but also the tissue we're actually burning. So if you lost, let's say for example, 50% muscle, 50% fat, that's not an ideal scenario, but you would lose 1.7 pounds per week with that same 3,500 calorie deficit. Because again, 1 pound of fat is 3,500 calories, but 1 pound of muscle is 600. So it's very important we keep that in mind, because we shouldn't be chasing just rapid loss on the scale. Because if rapid fat loss or weight loss is occurring, a large portion of that's likely muscle and water. Now this wouldn't happen really in any scenario, but just as an example, if you were to lose 100% muscle, if I did the math correctly, it's like 5.7 pounds lost. Again, that wouldn't really happen. But it goes to show, again, we shouldn't be chasing those rapid weight losses, because in that scenario, you didn't lose any fat, but in that first scenario where you only lost a pound, that might have been 100% fat loss. And there might even be cases, especially as a beginner, you're gaining a little bit of muscle and losing fat at the same time. So that can conflate things a little bit as well. But we'll get into kind of tracking progress to make sure you're reaching your goals, probably in the next video. So as I mentioned in the beginning, just make sure you subscribe so you don't miss that. Okay, so I'm gonna end it there. I don't want the video to be too long. We're gonna have some other videos. If you want any clarification on anything, again, comment below. I'll be happy to answer any questions. And until next time, thank you for watching.